Now, the argument for seeking administrative powers, which are quite separate from being sworn in as a minister, administrative powers are delegated by the Governor-General, so Morrison wanted equivalent powers in the resources portfolio to those of Keith Pitt, a very able man you've heard on this program. Pitt wanted to approve a licence to search for oil and gas off the New South Wales coast, as I've just said, including near Sydney. It is not valid, or worse, it's totally ignorant of the Westminster system for Morrison to say that because the Minister Keith Pitt wanted to approve the licence, that was it. The egocentric Morrison was here to save the day. Except that under the Westminster system, the Minister doesn't decide. He makes a recommendation to Cabinet. His job is then to persuade Cabinet to his position. Morrison's job would be, if it is agreed, to dissuade. And Cabinet takes responsibility for the outcome. But no, Morrison has virtually admitted he was a Cabinet of one. He took on the powers so that he could personally refuse the licence. What were the other gutless members around the Cabinet table doing? Is this how we got ourselves into $1 trillion of debt? Is this how we raced off to Glasgow to Me Too it with the Labor Party on climate change? This is very dangerous territory. A measure of good government is that voters must know who is in government and who is the minister responsible. Especially is this so when there are extraordinary powers in play, such as with biosecurity laws during the pandemic. If there are two people holding the same job and they disagree, what happens next? As the University of New South Wales constitutional law expert George Williams has said, it wasn't clear how contradictions would be resolved. Look, let's not beat around the bush. This was the Morrison mentality. He always knew best. He was running the joint. And that's why he sought these administrative powers in secret when there are existing provisions in place for other ministers to take over portfolios if a minister is incapacitated. And look, this is hardly worth a row of it. I'll just make one other point here, by the way. When Morrison publicly today has been asked, or earlier today was asked, what is his response to what Albanese? He said, I haven't noted what Mr Albanese said. I've not been in politics since the election. Mr Morrison, you're a member of Parliament and you paid $211,000 a year. You should be out there earning your keep. However, I make this point. This is all hardly worth a row of beans, other than to demonstrate the significant character weaknesses of Scott Morrison. The pre-selectors saw this when he first stood for that seat of Cook. Those weaknesses are most manifest in this now identified behaviour. But the current Prime Minister Albanese can't be let off the hook. He will run with this for as long as he can, so he won't have to address the crisis in cost of living, in interest rates, in business bankruptcies. He won't have to explain the cost of an energy policy that says we'll be 82% renewables by 2030. And it postpones the day when he's going to have to front the farmers and the transport industry and tell them what it means for them. Or is the current Prime Minister practising the strategy of his predecessor? All these things are secret because you don't need to know. This must be the strategy because to date we have not been given answers to any of these questions.